That's all I have. And I'm going to introduce Lisa to introduce herself
right.
as today's program.
Yes. Save some time. Well, first I want to thank all of you who were at the Hickory Museum of Art on Saturday night. It was just wonderful for a lot of reasons, but especially because you guys and the community was there, and it's great to sell out. Yes. I want to thank Bob Conklin, who invited me, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, and I had just found out that we weren't sure whether Mr. Hickory had a ticket yet, and his assistant we'd been working with for about a year had resigned over Christmas. So I wasn't terribly excited about coming because I was thinking about a few other things, but it worked. And again, thank you, Bob, because I asked my husband to please take photographs because I was going to need these photographs. And so Dan Smith is my husband, and he's the one who took all these photographs. I also want to thank Chip Young for coming, and yes, thank you, Frank, for inviting your dad, but I also invited him, so I'm gonna get credit for that too. and I want you to understand that this project could not have happened the way it did without the Camera Club. And it's been 3 years that we've been working together. And it started with one project, and it got bigger and bigger, and you're going to see a little bit about this. But we thank Chip Young for being here and for participating and everything he did to make it possible. And I also have Kelly Smith here, who is, well, she was last week brand new, I would say, and she has passed the test. She is a veteran now of the Hickory Museum of Art. She is our development manager, and that meant that she was the person who dealt with all the tickets, getting everything together, and all the folks you see in these photographs. And she is also now going to move over here, and we're going to work on this way. And I guess first we're going to turn the lights out.
Uh-oh. How we do that?
Uh-oh. Kelly knows how. Figured it out. As you can see on the table, everybody has something that looks like this. And if you will just do this, this is over. This is still happening. So we want you to keep this, put it on your bulletin board, put it on your computer, put it on your refrigerator, whatever you want to do. And if you notice here, Sure Tape, also the United Arts Council of Catawba County, and the state of North Carolina, the North Carolina Arts Council, and the National Endowment for the Arts, and the National Endowment for the Arts, who feels that a great nation deserves great art. And yes, Kathy, we agree with that. And I don't know if Kathy's here, but she was here on Saturday night and started the applause, and everybody applauded. So this is exciting, and we want you to know that that's where funding came from. In addition to folks who are in here today who actually contributed, we had contributions from this county and outside for the exhibit, and so we were able to make it happen. And we just keep on going. Okay, and I told Chip before this started that I think we have more pictures of Steve Hickory. Next was Sharbat Gula, who is the Afghan girl. Next is me, and next was Chip. And it's because that's who was involved. And Chip hasn't seen these. Also, my husband has not done any editing with any of these, and for those of you who are photographers and really want to see your images before they get out to the public, he hadn't had time. So there are a few things that I put in there that he probably would have zapped out, but it was fun. So if you can see, there's Steve, me in the gallery. Kathy is looking at an image, and I need to know not to take too much time, but because Chip is here, I'm going to thank him one more time. Chip actually sponsored that photograph, And the photograph is something that Steve McCurry talked about. He's so interested in trains, and he took several years. When he got a ticket from Philadelphia to India, a one-way ticket, when he was in his 20s. Late 20s, he decided he wanted to do something interesting with his life. And so he got to India, got sick, read a book about trains in India, spent 2 years just going everywhere in India. And if you can see, that picture's not real clear right now, but I am encouraging you to come to the Hickory Museum of Art to see it in person. And it's unbelievable. The Taj Mahal's back there. And we can just keep on moving. Oh, and also there was a guy there who's from Michigan. We had people who flew in from other places around the country because they found out Steve McCurry was coming to Hickory, which was kind of neat. There we go again. You can see Steve McCurry talking about his camera. All night we have people who were using their cell phones, people who were using their other cameras, talking about taking pictures, and it just was really great. What I love over here to the top left, the first photograph that I saw that Steve took was our title panel. It's probably the last thing that you would think someone who really has done incredible things in his life would do. But he was in Hickory at the museum, and he took a picture of that title panel, and he was proud of it. He also saw a poster that we hadn't asked for it, which was kind of neat. But you can see us moving, and this was 3:30 where we were. I know this is kind of like home fit movies, and I'll move it faster, but this is where we started. Okay. As you can see, we've got Mitzi, we've got a bunch of people you probably know. Again, we've got Chip, the museum staff, and again, we've been working on it for about 3 years, and not the staff so much. The staff was working the last year big time though. And then here's a photograph of the beginning of the reception. And if you see yourself or anybody else, I'll give you a photograph. I'll give you one. Let me know. What's really fun, I just told Leslie, her sister's getting a picture taken, but it's a little foggy. Anybody recognize this person? Scott Ladle. We usually don't have people taking so many photos, but I think it was that kind of night. And he's got his beer there, he's got his camera, and he's taking a picture of his wife. And that was fun. Again, as you can see, we've got lots of things going on here. And I will say, okay, the salt block, the auditorium was great, and the space that we live in, the Hickory Museum of Art lives in, is really fantastic. And I want to thank the Salt Block board members and director and everybody who makes this again possible. Frank's even on that. He's the head of the Building and Grounds Committee. So we were all celebrating. And thanks to everybody who's maybe not on these committees now, but made it happen. Okay. So we started out with Steve McCurry came in, set things up, and here we go. This is the third part of the day where he's getting ready to talk with Hal Rowe. And how many of you have been interviewed by Hal Rowe? He is just the best person to make people feel comfortable, the audience as well as the speaker. And Hal didn't really know much about photography, and a few people told me they wanted to know more about f-stops and more about photography in general. And we actually had 2 opportunities where people could ask questions. Hal didn't know photography, but Hal knows people. And Hal asked him questions. Our staff and our volunteers learned so much about Steve that it's not even in books. Like, Steve went to school Steve explained that it was an Episcopal school in Asheville. Well, you know, we know where that is. And he was there, and he said one of the reasons he decided to come to Hickory is, number one, he loves the South. Number two, he went on our website and said, you know, I can make this happen. So that was great. And when you come into the museum, if you've not seen the show, this is the image that you'll see. And I'm just going to show you again some of what is at the museum that he talked about on Saturday night. What's really interesting is to look at this man who's a photographer, and he is making a living in Afghanistan as a photographer. And Steve made a connection with him, and we made a connection with this photograph because of this photography exhibition. It's a little bit hard to see what's going on over here, but in Lebanon, what we have is shells that have been used. And we have these children who are using this as their swing set. And it's just so poignant. But this is Steve. He is looking for something happening in the world, and he's trying to tell us what he sees and what he wants us to see and what he wants us to think about. This is in Kuwait. We weren't sure whether to use this image, but we're dealing with the environment, we're dealing with politics, we're dealing with geography, cultures, and a lot of things are obvious, some things we don't know. He is trying to say something with visual imagery and communicate and remind us that we're all in the same world together. He actually lives very close to this spot. He was on his balcony when he took the photograph, and this is ground zero. Twin towers are going down. He said he'd just come back from a trip overseas, woke up at 9 o'clock, went out to have his coffee, and this is what he saw. This image is not the one we used at the museum, but when you come, you'll see a little bit of that. Most everything is from other continents besides ours, but wanted you to realize that. This young girl is often called the Afghan girl, but she is another young woman who Steve photographed. And you might have seen this image on I-40. It's on the billboard. And it's especially powerful at night because the lights are just illuminating her eyes and everything about her. Steve asked us if we could use some other images besides the Afghan girl, just to help promote this exhibit. He also wanted other people to know he did more than one photograph that is so famous, and it's such a powerful image. I hope you'll think about it. When you're on I-40 and you're coming towards Hickory, look to the right, and right before you get off, you'll see it. This is a story that I learned by looking at one of his books. He has 12 books, and the one that I think is the best is called Untold Stories, Steve McCurry's photography. It was published in 2014, and it's the backstories. And on the cover of that book, you will see the image that's on the left. And he told us that that's the image he thought National Geographic would be most interested in. As part of the backstories, because you know the image on the other side, he was in India. It was very hot. He'd been there for 2 years. He's still in his 20s. and he decided to go to Pakistan because they're mountains and it was going to be cooler, and it was in the summer. And he got there, and some soldiers from Afghanistan saw his camera, talked to him, and told him that they wanted to get their story out. The Mujahideen wanted to get their story out, and they asked if he would come with them and be a part of that process. Well, he's just a kid. He wanted an adventure. He didn't want to live in Philadelphia for the rest of his life. And so he talked on Saturday night, and some of that's in his books, about how he said, sure, I'll go with you. After he was there for a couple of days and they were shot at, bombed at, a lot of things happened, he said he was scared to death. And he really thought, maybe I've made a big mistake, but he liked these people. He saw they were being bombed, their towns were being destroyed by the Russians, a lot of things were going on, and he said he just couldn't leave. And so that's what got him involved with the Afghan girl, because her parents had been killed, and she had gone over the mountain and was in she was in a group of refugees, and she was in a tent with other girls her age. And Steve said he walked in and he saw her eyes. He knew those eyes were something he'd never seen before, but he could not, he knew he couldn't go right straight to her. So he talks about how he went to the other girls, he talked with them he was in that tent for about 10 minutes, he said. And at the very end of his experience there, the other girls were playing, and this young girl kind of came over to him, so it made it a little more comfortable. And he took this picture. Again, she'd never been in a tent with a man she didn't know, most likely. She also had never seen a camera. She didn't know what was going on, and her parents had died, and her grandmother had saved her siblings and her. But she was really in bad shape. And if you look at the clothing that she is wearing, when she was about 12 here. When she was about 30, Steve, most of you know, with National Geographic, they paid for him to go try to find her and to find out what her name was. And he did, and her name was Sharbat Gula. And he said the first time she looked at the picture, she goes, oh, everything, I don't look very good. I've got burns in my clothing. And she was embarrassed. And then when he talked to her and explained to her about what was going on in terms of the whole world had seen her image, she still couldn't understand it, but she gave permission for him to take some more pictures. And here's a picture of her with one of her children. She has 2 girls. So it was something that he continues to talk about, and he says, I was lucky I got to take that picture. That picture made his career. But he's continued to look for new photographs, for new challenges, and to make sure that that the people in the world know about peace and how important it is for us to all get along, which we're having trouble doing. Oh my goodness. So let's see, we've got a few more photographs. After he spoke, again with Hal Rowe, doing the interviewing, we had our book signing, and we just wanted to kind of end with this part of our photographs, because I'm going to show you a little video after this. But you can see Barnes & Noble was great. People brought books that they've had for years and years. Some people bought books. We still have some at the museum. And I just love John Setzler, who is the current president of the Camera Club. And he's there. he looks like he's falling asleep. I think he was tired. We were all tired. But I also love the image of a woman from Yemen, and she was at a polling booth, and Steve explained to us that actually this was an easy photo because the men weren't there. They have, and yes, this is an Arab country, but they have a place women can vote. And she was there to vote, and nobody stopped him, and he just took his shot, which he you know, every one of these pictures has a story, and I'm not here to tell you all the stories, but just wanted you to see this. And the next thing we want to show you is children at the Hickory Museum of Art. We are actually promoting our Fund a Bus, and I'm not here to say give me money right now, but I want you to know about it. And also, let's look and listen to children in this community who are talking about Steve McCurry's art.
Hey, Lisa, put your microphone.
I said, you need to get it louder.
This could be a once in a lifetime thing for some kids. It might be the first time they've ever been into a museum. The parents may not be able to get them over here, but they also don't realize that they're learning. They don't have to know a lot about art. They can read a picture just like you can read a book. A kid who may not excel in reading can excel in looking at art and telling stories.
I want to see some people that are fishing, and they're on some sort of bamboo pole. Because it looks like the surf is really rough, and fishing on the rocks, the waves probably might knock them back and hurt them.
I think some Persians are dressed in black. They kind of look like a frog, and with a hat, so they don't notice that they're Persian. They don't want the sun to be in their faces, so they just put on some hats and get in some warm clothes and start gardening.
A photographer is taking a picture of a man with like another camera, I guess. This one's a whole lot older. And he seems like be on a street, and he has a big metal grate behind him. I think he took a picture because of the relationship between him and that guy.
I think they're putting on an umbrella over their head so they don't get wet because it's raining. But it looks like they're calm and not like scared of anything. Looks like it makes me feel calm a little.
First, the Taj Mahal is like in the background of it, and they're men and women on a train on the very front, and you usually don't see that.
And I kind of liked how it was unique and how the train's coming by and they're on the train.
To me, it'd be kind of hard to capture that, like for a moving train, and a photographer to capture that in that exact moment. Because I think it'd be pretty fun to ride on the front of a train.
Looks like there's like some travelers, and they found like a really quiet place, like the docks, and there's nobody there.
always like how you're gonna look back on things.
So I'm in middle school, so I'm really interested in the social studies connections of this photography with my students and how they can connect that to globalization and worldviews and the changing of dynamics and cultures of the populations.
From my perspective from the Hispanic community, that will be a good opportunity for our kids to be part of them. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity to be in places like this, to open our eyes to a different perspective, the artist's eyes, you know.
And I mean, it gives kids a jump start on their creativity, a jump start on their wide range of thinking, a jump start on thinking outside of where they are. So it's good. It paints a vivid pictures, just like the rainbow. There are many colors. We gotta enjoy every one of them.
I think it gives them a chance to be themselves and be creative and not have to conform to a box. It gives them a chance just to be who they are, express exactly how they feel. Sometimes you're not able to put it in words or able to say it out loud, but a lot of times it's easier to put it in artwork.
It's always financial concerns, and time is a constraint for us too, but I think we can make the time in our schedule, but finances, to get our kids here, they have to pay money. I'm in a Title I school with 80% free reduced lunch, so if you ask a student for $3 to ride the bus, that's a major undertaking for some of our families.
You know, kids often, and unless they just kind of have a special interest in that, they think history is boring. And so if they can come into the museum and see these kind of cool moments that Steve McCurry has captured, I think it will bring the curriculum to life for them.
We're going to go ahead and run this, but I want to make sure you understand that this was put together by the Guild of the Hickory Museum of Art, and it's something that they just feel is important to get kids to the museum, to get kids out of the classroom, to learn in so many different ways, and the visual and the performing arts we think are important. So we're pushing that. I also was wondering if you have any questions. No questions? All right.
I'm sure he made money off of that photograph. Did that girl get any kind of reward for that photo, or how did that work?
That's a great question, and he said he gets that all the time. In fact, to just add to that question, people think, okay, was his goal in life to be a photographer and make a lot of money? He said he really wasn't thinking much about making money when he was in his 20s, and he wasn't thinking about making money when he was looking for a cool place to be, literally cool, not hot, where he ended up in a war. What he did say is that he is so glad that National Geographic spent a lot of money so that he could find Sharbat Gula. And if you go online, I've spent a couple days actually looking at all the different videos that are out there, and some of them are, you want to talk about that some more?
So I'll just answer his question.
Yeah.
That was a question that I had for.
We all did.
So I was able to spend a lot of time with him because we took him up to the airport and took him back. And he said that National Geographic does pay a monthly stipend to her, and actually Steve McCurry also pays a monthly amount that goes. It doesn't go directly to her; it goes to someone, and she lives in Pakistan. But she has benefited from it. But that photograph has been reproduced several hundred million times over the years. And so it's it's really the most iconic, well-known photograph probably in the world. But the answer is yes, she has received compensation.
There's also a school that's for is in her honor. She has these 2 girls, and one thing that he talked about is that she was so worried about her girls not being well educated, and she was afraid when he found her that her oldest girl, it was too late for her, but please help my other girl. And her husband was also sick. In fact, he lived in another town. He was a baker in another town, and his hands were burned, and he was having trouble breathing. And that was another thing that Steve was able to help just try to make sure that her life and her children's lives were better than her life when she was their age.
Lisa, let's go ahead and, I'm sure you can stay around if people have more questions, they can come up and talk to you.
Sure, thank you so much.
Lisa, thank you.
Thank you. Book of thanks.
David, what do we got today?
President Mark, we took in $60 a day, and we have a total of $127. And we have 53 cards in the deck, plus 2 jokers. And the winning number is, I can't see it.
The last 3 digits are 394. Mr. Johnson. Somebody from your table right back there is the reason there's no money in the pot.
He's sitting here.
Front today.
Yeah, I'm working. That's right.
Free lunch.
Free lunch.
Free lunch.
Mike.
Good job, Mike.
Free lunch. 8 of hearts. 8 of hearts. All right. Please stand. Let's close with the 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Wow.